It's some presentations from the future talent, a fresh look. Sustainable GSE, and it's some presentations from some tertiary students about sustainability projects in ramp operations in the airport. I'm going to ask the team leader, Sunny Bat, to join, Manager, Ground Ops, Innovation and Efficiency at IATA. He will lead and moderate this session and actually introduce the group. Please, I'll welcome everybody to the stage.
Thank you very much, Sean, and hello and welcome to everyone to our session about sustainable GSE. As I like to call it, it's the session where the present meets the future. Before we can go ahead, I would definitely like to introduce the speaker, my fellow speakers of this session, and I will start with, we have a speaker from Mulak, which is a GSE manufacturer, head of R&D, Thomas Huger, please. Second speaker for the session is from INAC, or some of you might know it as a French Civil Aviation University. So Michel, who is a mentor at INAC and is also a president of Pyramid SAS, please. And now we have Tanguy Baudouin, who is a student from INAC. Please welcome him on the stage as well. Last but not least, we also have people from Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences. So we will start with Diarto, who is a team leader and lecturer of the aviation operations, please. And we have two more speakers who are actually getting mic'd up, but I'm going to introduce them anyway. So we have Britt Mulder, who is a student at the university. She's going to be with us in a second. And then we have Jan Jukens as well. He's also a student at the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences. He will be with us in a second as well. So as we start the session and we talk a little bit about what we are going to do, we would like to start with showing you a little bit of video in terms of what we want to present to you.
Current forecasts predict exponential growth in air travel. Passenger demand is expected to double over the next 20 years. Over 38,000 new aircraft will enter the skies during this time. Airports are going to be really pressed for space, pressed for clean air, really busy, and really, really noisy. All of our equipment, right from the aircraft through to the smallest tractor, is potentially capable of running cleaner and being less noisy.
In the near future, I would like to see a gradual decrease in diesel emissions. For example, by switching the aircraft supporting equipments to electric power and aircraft power units, that is ground power units, to electric from diesel.
In the future, I would like to see a reduction of noise pollution. In the future, little impact in our health and wildlife.
I've been working with a diesel tractor with a lot of smokes around us, but since we introduced the EBT tractors, it has been advantageous to us because environmentally it's beneficial.
So that was a very brief video we wanted to show you, but that was interesting, wasn't it? Because we asked a very simple question to the people on the ramp. We asked them, what is it that you would like to change or improve on the ramp in the future? And we all heard the answer. If we ever had any concerns about if the sustainable operations on the ground are important, we shouldn't. We heard from the industry. Now, we talked and we saw what the people on the ramp had to say, but now we should also speak a little bit about what the future of our industry has to say about it. The first interviewee that we talked, Hoshad Ali, he talked about electrical GPUs. So I would like to give the floor to Diarto, to Britt and Yanks, to start and tell us what do they think are the next step for the electrical GSEs, or the GPUs. I will start with Diarto, please. Here you go.
Thank you, Sunny. So actually, in light of the challenges that were shown here in the video, Massimo and Steve, they asked me to come up with, can we somehow have some kind of interaction with our students for them to come up with solutions to the challenge or challenges that our industry is facing. So that's what we did. We set out a challenge for our second-year aviation operations students. It was actually coinciding with a project on ground handling, so that was perfect for us. So we had quite a large group of students having their brains work to come up with innovative ideas. And I want to do all the talking, but the students will present the ideas that they came up with. So it's an idea. They did not work out the entire concept, so maybe that's something for you as the industry here to pick up, maybe in collaboration with them, but they will present their idea. So just quickly who we are and the idea itself with current situation, challenges ahead, you know, the usuals. So as Sunny already introduced, two students, Britt and Jens, and myself as the team leader and the lecturer of their studies. So without further ado, I would like to give the word to Britt, and she will specify more on the concept that they came up with.
Yes, thank you very much. Hello, welcome. We took a look into the, let me see. Yes, into the current situation of the eGPUs, especially at the infrastructure of it. We took a look into it and we saw some unpredictabilities that were really striking to us. For example, what's the live location of an eGPU? What's its availability? How much battery percentage is there left? And not only are those unpredictabilities a constraint on its own, but it's also an uncertainty for, well, maybe we have to use a diesel GPU just as a backup, just in case. This then will result in more congestion at the airport, extra equipment to be handled, and not only is this more costly and inefficient, it's also a step backwards for, it's not a step in the right direction for a sustainable turnaround process, what we're trying to achieve. So when we looked into these constraints, problems, etc., Jens will now explain how our idea well, should resolve these issues.
Yes, thank you, Britt. Okay, so our idea is basically to create a way to monitor the location, charge, and availabilities of eGPUs. So there can, it's possible to create a network planning for the eGPUs and when and if and how to use them and to charge them. And to do that, then it's more easier for the planning to act proactively on low charged GPUs rather than reactively by having a empty GPU already on the ramp and having a spare one to replace it. That takes time, and it takes also a lot of energy and sometimes even emissions by using a diesel GPU instead. So with a advanced planning for the GPUs, it will eliminate the requirements for having a diesel GPU, like I mentioned, and it will also result in a higher utilization of the electrical GPUs to be used. Yes, okay, so the objectives that are still needed in order to perfectly execute this idea is to gather the historical data to feed artificial intelligence. So right now it's probably being used by a single person that is assigning tasks, that is planning the whole operation. But with artificial intelligence, for example, this can be done more automatic and less manpower consuming. And it also a objective is to see how much electricity a certain airplane is using currently, because that's that's not really standardized with the yeah, for example, if you have a 737 hanging out there with its lights on while being parked, then it will take more energy than with its lights on, for example. And yeah, also an objective is to like reduce the cost by using an electrical GPU instead of maintaining the diesel engine on the current GPU and keep refueling it. And yeah, so the current challenges for that are that there are still no historical data available, so it's not possible to to predict the planning, and there is no standard way. And of course, it's a question: who will own the system? Will it be the airport? Will it be the ground handler? Or will it be the airline itself? And that's also the same for the logistics and the communications currently. So, thank you very much. Yep. And if you guys got any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Dierto, Jens, Britt. We will do the questions and answers at the end of the session. So thank you very much. It was very interesting, very interesting. As we know, electrical GSE are not the only options. We have many alternatives available in the market. So to talk a little bit more about what are the other options, what is the state of the art, and where is the status of that, I would like to give the floor to Michel and Tanguy. Guys, please, if you can get the ball rolling.
Okay, some background first. I am a teacher at the French Civil Aviation School in Toulouse, ENAC, and I'm also the honorary chairman of the Association of French Ground Handlers. This association, called CSAE, has signed the Declaration of Toulouse on decarbonation of transport. And when ENAC has asked me to find a study topic for some engineering students, we have immediately said, what is the situation of GSE in terms of greening, and how we can follow the evolution at French airport. You must know only two things. First, they have 2 months to do their studies in extra time because they have the lecture during the same period. And when they have begun the study, they don't know anything about ground handling. And so they have to learn everything during the study, and they have made a good job. It's a very, very short summary of their study. Tanguy.
So, thank you, Michel. So good morning, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here today. So my name is Tanguy, and I come from the French Civil Aviation University. So I'm going to talk about the greening of the ground handling equipment and the monitoring of its evolutions. So this presentation is divided in 3 different parts. First, the state of art for ground handling equipment, the second one concerning the hydrogen power, and the last one concerning the indicators. So first, the state of art. So this survey is based on the 16 main suppliers in the market. So you have to know that this presentation, this state of art, the aim of this state of art is to have an overall presentation of the ground handling equipment and not to blame some suppliers, some operators with the most green of them and so on. So we have divided different ground handling equipment into 4 different categories. And I put on this slide one example of each category: ACU for the family 1, pushback tractors for the family 2, loaders for the family 3, and motorized passenger stairs for the family 4. And so what we can see on this slide, we can see that obviously thermic energy is predominant, followed by hybrid and electric power. We do not have any hydrogen equipment for the moment, and we have just one solar energy for the motorized passenger stairs. So why is hydrogen missing? There are 2 main reasons. The first one is that hydrogen-powered equipment is still in the prototype development. So you have to know also that in this state of art, we focused on the commercial brochure, the current commercial brochure, and not to the prototype stage. And there is a problem with the presentation. And the second one is that there is a lack of sources of production and distribution of hydrogen and on or near airports. We have the beginning of some production and distributions sources in, for example, in the Toulouse-Blagnac airport in France. But it's the beginning, and worldwide we have a lack of sources and distribution, of production and distribution. So I put on this slide a matrix with an horizontal axis named used. So the more you use the equipment, the more you are on the right. And with the vertical axis, the more you need power for this equipment, the more you are on top. So let's give an example. For the top right, we have, for example, the pushback tractors, because we use it very frequently during a turnaround, during a day, and we need a lot of power. And for the bottom left, we have, for example, the motorized passenger stairs, where we need not a lot of power. And last but not least, the indicators for setting up and monitoring the progress of greening. So we have split the indicators into two different categories, one concerning the suppliers and one concerning the operators. So there are common indicators, such as ratio of equipment powered by electricity, by hydrogen, by thermic or solar or hydrogen. But we have some specific indicators concerning, for the supplier, the price differential between thermic and electric equipment over time. Because imagine that in the commercial brochure, you have a big difference in price between thermic equipment and electric equipment. This will be a very big issue. So this indicator is a key indicator to measure the accessibility of such equipment. For the operators, we have, for example, the ratio of use of the equipment according to energy sources. Because imagine you have 50% of your fleet powered by electricity and 50% of your fleet, total fleet, powered by thermic. If you use the thermic power for example, 75% of your movements, of your ground operation, there is also another issue. So this is another key indicators for operators. And the last one, concerning the suppliers, the evolution of the carbon balance, and for the operators, evolution of CO2 emissions caused by GSE during a turnaround. So thank you for your attention, and I remain at your disposal for any questions you have at the end.
Thank you very much, Tanguy. Thank you, Michel. So now that we have spoken about what are the next steps for the electrical GPUs, we look at what are the options for the GSE in the market. Let's talk with Thomas about what makes the GSE sustainable. Thomas, all yours, please.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say it's very nice to see young people interested in aviation industry. We talked about yesterday and today that in the aviation industry is not so fancy for the young people, so it's good to see young people interested in this industry. So first of all, I want to do a little introduction to Moulac, who we are. Moulac, we are based in Black Forest, close to the French border. So my home airport is Strasbourg in France. It's round about 10 kilometers away from us. We are producing since round about 70 years, starting with agricultural tractors, going to GSE. So we are building GSE since 1964, and the first GSE was an electric belt loader. So we have a lot of experience in electric GSE. What we produce mowing equipment. Also in the mowing equipment, it's sustainable become more and more a topic. We have bean-friendly mower. We just showed this week in Munich on a trade fair. So sustainability is a big topic in our company. Also in the GSE, all equipment we produce you can have in electric, diesel, LPG, not only the belt loader, because it's very small people who want to drive with LPG. And also we have hydrogen driven in serial production, but we still have the problem, and I will come to much more problem because, or why so less people want to buy hydrogen GSE. We talk a lot about sustainable GSE, and we thought, what is sustainable? That's a big question. Everybody says we had to go to sustainable ground support, but what is it? It's not only to drive electric vehicles. That's not the issue. What is sustainable? We have sustainable means how available is your GSE, how durability, the components you use, the consumption, the power unit, and is the GSE designed for recycling? So come to the availability. How available is your GSE? Just for example, if you need for your ground operation 50 tow tractors and you have availability of your GSE from 90% and you need 1% of the time for refueling the diesel, then you need 56 tow tractors on your ground. 6 tow tractors are still in the maintenance or still on refueling. If you have an electric tractor which is 50% on the charging station, you need 111 tow tractor. So is this really sustainable to have this big figure of tow tractors on your ground? Then what is the time interval between your ground operation? Here, a big and a small French airport. Strasbourg Airport has normally 12 flights per day. So the gap between 2 flights is big enough to charge your GSE. Charles de Gaulle have 12 flights in 5 minutes, and that in a low traffic time frame. So if you have the GSE still on your charging station, you have a problem because your GSE is not available. Then how trained is your maintenance workshop? We talk about availability. If you have a bad trained service workshop, the service go longer as you have good trained people there. So this is a part of your availability of your GSE. Then what I said is the how fast is your charging or refueling? Is it 1% of the lifetime or is it 50% of the lifetime? And also, how is your operational planning? Did you know how many GSEs are on your field? I know a few customers from us, they don't know how many GSE they have. So let's come to durability. 2 vehicles who make the same. Driving 5 people to the gate and have the luggage behind. On the left side, you see a truck which is not built for the ground operation. After 10 years, they say, okay, we have a roundabout 2,000 working hours, and they are all total damage. On the right side, it's a special for this ground operation built vehicle. So this has 38,000 working hours. It's 90 years old and it's still in operation. Not in Düsseldorf, they sold it to another airport, but it's still in operation. So this is also a part of sustainable. And now let's go to figures. Let's go boring. Yeah. I have 6-ton tractors. You can see how many energy expenditure you have for producing the vehicle. So I just want to show, you can look to the presentation as long you want, but you can see lubrication oil and synthetic rubber is round about the half of the energy expenditure of the production of a tow tractor. So if you know you had to replace the lubrication oil every 500 working hours, so this is a big energy consumption of the tow tractor and you don't know it. And just for example, the Comet, it's our tow tractor, so that's the reason why I'm looking for the Comet tow tractor. We have the 6-ton diesel, electric, and electric with lithium. And you see, for the production of a diesel tow tractor, you need round about 58,000 kilowatt hours. For a lithium tow tractor, or lithium battery tow tractor, you need 75,000 kilowatt hours. So that's also a part of the sustainable. Then the next part is the consumption. So the same diesel, electric, and with lithium. So if you drive 20,000 working hours, so that's the standard lifetime of a tow tractor from our company, you need round about 800,000 kilowatt hours just for driving through the field. With an electric tractor, you need less because the efficiency of the electric tow tractor is much more higher as from a diesel tractor. And if you look, because I said, okay, we have a higher energy consumption by producing the vehicle, on the right side you can see in the whole lifetime it makes not this big matter because the reduction of the consumption is much more higher as you need more for the production of the vehicle. Then the power unit. Now I have a change from kilowatt hours to CO2 because that's what many people are interested. How many CO2 have I as an emission on the airport? So on the left side you see a standard diesel, but you can also reduce the CO2 emission of your standard diesel equipment. We supply special oil filters. I said you had to replace the lubrication oil every 500 working hours. It's possible to rise this figure up to 4,000 working hours if you had special oil filters. So if you use these oil filters, you can reduce your CO2 footprint. Then we supply the EcoDrive. It's only if you have long distance driving, then you also reduce your fuel consumption and also you reduce your carbon footprint. You can combine this. So you had the possibility to make your diesel engine much more better as it is today. And then we had a few different drivetrains. We have the LPG, the CNG, which is really bad because you had to transport the CNG, you had to compress the CNG, which is in carbon footprint very bad. And you have also a CO2 emission in the electric ones because you had to produce your electricity. And this makes also a carbon footprint. Yeah. And on the right side, you have the hydrogen. At the moment, there is no green hydrogen in these big figures we need. So this is the German footprint of hydrogen you can get on the market. Then next point is design for recycling. Did the manufacturer of the GSE looking in development, how can I give my GSE a second life? So you can see here, if a customer, this is a special customer, maybe the one, maybe some people here know it from the color, gives us or sells us the GSE back after 20,000 working hours when they buy new GSE. And we do a replacement of all the broken components and give them a second life for 10 or 20,000 more hours on another airport. So that's also a part of sustainable. When we talk about we had to make our industry sustainable. Yeah. So let's come to economical. That's also a question many people here are interested in. For the figures, I just say it's easier for me. A standard diesel is 100,000 euro. So I can say, okay, percentage up and down. That's the reason for the figures of if you buy a vehicle. The figures of recycling and the recycling costs and service costs and of the consumption is approximately figures from customers we get data. So if you see everything instead of the hydrogen drive is cheaper in a 20,000 working hour lifetime as a diesel unit. So if you just say you want to have the TCO of your equipment, it's cheaper to buy electric vehicles as to buy a diesel equipment. One reason for you why nobody wants to have the hydrogen-driven one, the hydrogen is quite expensive in buying the vehicle and it's quite expensive in usage. That's one reason why nobody has big interest in hydrogen. That's at the moment because the figures are so less. So if more and more hydrogen is on the market and more fuel cells on the market, the prices go down. But at the moment, we heard it, we have only prototype status of from many suppliers of the hydrogen, of many suppliers of the fuel cells. That's the reason why it's quite expensive at the moment. And for the summary, it's not easy to say what is sustainable. It depends on your airport. It depends on so many things. We can help you to say what's the sustainable solution for your airport, but it's not easy to say this solution is the best solution for everybody. So that's from my side. So maybe there are a few questions.
Yes, please. So now the floor is open. Thank you, Thomas. Now the floor is open for questions. Please feel free to ask questions to any of the speakers that are on the stage. Either you can use the application or just raise your hand and we'll get the mic to you. Sorry, I don't see. Oh, yes, please.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So my question is for the gentleman that talked about the indicators for yes, and the last speaker, both of them. So from what I gather, so one question from your presentation, when you talked about thermal, hybrid, solar, I assume that from thermal, you have the most, or rather the highest level of emissions, right? Okay, so then my question to the last speaker is, what options or recommendations do you have for accessibility of sustainable ground handling equipment, especially for developing countries like, in Africa? So the bit about your recycling was okay, but then it's a bit far-fetched for those of us that operate in Africa, for example, if we have to disassemble ground handling equipment to get the parts back to you, to buy, new equipment at a lesser price. So what other options do you have that, we can work with to start, running green operations relatively? Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
You can answer.
Yes.
Start you.
So it's a very difficult question for me to answer. Because concerning the cost, first, we just for this project considered the cost in order to buy the equipment, but we didn't interest in the total cost of ownership. But it might be interesting to interest about the overall price. But we just focused first on the equipment at the commercial brochure, just to measure the first accessibility of the equipment. But I think it can be interesting if we move the project forward to look for the total cost of ownership and to think and to understand the accessibility of the whole process from the starting to the ending of this utilization. So I don't know if you have part of your answer.
Okay. For me, it's also not easy to answer that question. We sell the rebuilt units to these customers who don't have this many traffic most time. So it depends on your airport. If it's a good solution for you, or maybe a new vehicle may be better for you. So that's what I said. It's not easy to say that's the best solution for a customer in this area. It depends on how many flights you have. It depends on so many things. So, yeah, okay, there's another. Okay, so maybe we can later talk about what's the best solution for you, but it's not easy to say without the knowledge of your airport or of your ground handling to say that's the best solution for you.
All right.
I would just like to make a...
Steve.
Can I just provide a rider to the question she asked earlier? Can I go ahead?
Yes, please. We have
right,
time
thank
for
you.
one more question.
Still riding on what she asked. Looking at it from Africa or developing country perspective, we have a lot of marketing activity from manufacturers of equipment from Europe and America. Of course, and the focus is, this is the new trend, go green. Kind of discourage the emission. However, the cost side is not being properly projected. I like the position given by the last presenter, that's the man from Mulak, which actually put it in the very plain language. This is not a one-size-fits-all. You've got to look at your environment and be sure of the best that is suitable for you. However, we currently have some of these new innovations in third world. I'm from Nigeria, and I can tell you that we have some of this equipment there. The challenge is maintenance of this, the cost of this on ground handling companies that are actually struggling. Virtually everything said here points to the fact that we do not have the capacity to manage this equipment at this very time in the history of ground handling business. Can then be focused, can our communication as manufacturers be very direct and be focused so that when we want to expend the little money or the little foreign currency that we have in the other part of the world where I came from, we'll be very careful in the right place to put our fund. You said if I have an operational template that requires 50 tractors, and I intend to use all electric, that means I need to have markup in the numbers, because at certain times, there will be downtime for some of this equipment to be charged. Most of the time, when of these marketing conversations are taking place, some of these things are completely swept under the carpet. And people get into it because of the focus on reduce the emission, go green, this is the new thing. And sometimes, some of our clients too, the airlines, they push us so hard on the need for us to align with the global trend, which is very key. We agree that. But I think the need for the communication to look at different environment in terms of how advanced an environment is and how, developing the other is very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I guess, unfortunately, we have run out of the time now, so we don't have the time for any more questions. But what I would like to do, first of all, before we wrap up the session, I would like to say 3 things. We heard in the session today what the people in the ramp right now they are saying, what the future of the industry has to say, and what makes a GSE sustainable. Now, I would like to thank you guys for being here. I would like to thank the speakers for being here. But I would really appreciate if we can give a huge round of applause to Britt, Jens, and Tanguy for coming here and showing us their passion about the aviation. Thank you very much, guys. Please feel free to contact them individually to talk about what they have presented here if you have any questions. But as of now, we don't have the time for it, unfortunately. Thank you very much.